everybody. This is John for MTG Nexus coming at you with a hopefully shorter stream tonight. We are finishing up a league that we've already started with the 5-color Valky Cascade deck. This is a deck that obviously has done well throughout the weekend. People tinkering with various different things, whether it be Omnath builds, whether it be working on the Jund build some more, whether it be working on a hybridization of this build and the Omnath Uro builds. A lot of people starting to work with some things, taking a look at some of the MTGO results. Looked like on Saturday, at least, as far as Saturday's challenge, was taken down by one of the Jund variants, it beat a regular 4-color Uro pile in the finals. One of the versions, like we were playing, actually I think it's card for card, looked like we were playing almost. This one, or someone similar to this list, made the semifinals. Thanks, W Downer, for the follow. And then Spirits did well. Surprisingly, a couple burn decks got in there. Not quite sure how that was happening. And then Death and Taxes, another Valky deck, and then Burn again. It looks like the adaptation Burn has made is Deafening Silences, some number of those in addition to Roiling Vortex. So glad to see Burn doing well this weekend, as I'm traditionally a Burn pilot, but obviously not very good for the format right now. Whether we'll see something, a quick hook tomorrow, we'll see. That's part of the reason why I wanted to finish this league up tonight, as opposed to streaming in the morning, is, they could make some change, although I doubt it. I think it'll be another week or two before they make a change to Cascade rules, because, flipping a 7-mana Planeswalker is kind of broken both in this format and in Legacy, causing problems as well. Only that's like the unholy triumvirate of that, Uro, and Valky. So, as far as this list, this is obviously a little bit more of a controlling list. You're using Far and Away, Warrant Warden, and Supreme Verdict to keep creature decks in check, which otherwise might be able to get under you. Obviously, you have the Cascade spells, 4 Ardent Plea, 4 Violent Outburst. Sometimes you hardcast Valky, and it's a fine card. You have 4 Brazen Borrower, 1 Bone Crusher Giant as additional threats / spells, being able to cast Petty Theft or Stomp, in addition to your Far and Warrant as ways to buy time, which can be quite important to this deck, obviously, unless you're on a Simian Spirit Guide or Gemstone Caverns draw. So, being able to play spells on 2 are quite important, otherwise you could get run over in a format generally as quick as Modern. There are decks that could get under that, Hammer Time, Burn. In fact, there are decks that can get under, a 3 CMC Valky, so, or Tibalt, however you refer to it as. And then Teferi Time Raveler, kind of the mirror breaker, kind of important in control mirrors. Obviously, this shuts down opposing counter spells, keeps Cascade from happening, a whole bunch of other stuff. So, Teferi stock in the Modern format might be in an all-time high right now, which is saying a lot. As looking at this list, this was one of the original lists by Hancho Bai, I believe it was. 4 Ley Line, this is primarily for burn and discard spells. 4 Ley Line the Void, I'm presuming that's primarily for Upsal spells, which can kind of get under this deck as well. 4 copies of Mystical Dispute. The original list was 3 Dispute, 1 Mindbreak Trap, but I thought Mindbreak Trap was a little bit limited in what it was doing. Especially since you already have Force of Negation and Teferi against the Tibalt's Trickery deck, and then 4 Mystical Dispute for the blue decks primarily, and then 2 Threads of Disloyalty for additional interaction against creature decks, which we've run into Shadow twice in the 7 matches we've played, as well as humans once, so it's nice to have additional interaction to bring in when you're a Force of Negations and Commandeers. which this is a card whose stock is picking up ridiculously right now. We saw it out of the blue-white control list that we lost to in this league earlier on the other day. So this is a card whose stock is picking up primarily because it allows you to steal a Valky or some other spell like Teferi Time Rattler, which can be relevant in some spots, especially in mirror matches and such. Giovanni MF, I do follow on Twitter, has been doing well with Burn, which is kind of surprising, as I don't think Burn is particularly well positioned right now. But I guess with the changes to the sideboard, it can have a decent enough trickery matchup, which means it's not terrible. And then, you know, a lot of the other decks, it's reasonably well positioned against, especially if people are having to fight the various Cascade decks. So, see how long the Cascade decks last. A lot of people are already wanting it banned. I personally think the power level might be too high, especially since people are starting to mess with like literally every shell. Let's see. Like, apparently Doomwake is working with Saheeli Rai and Philidar Guardian. There's been all kinds of nonsense going on. So we're on the play. We have 2 copies of Cascade spells. I mean, I guess we keep this. Opponent plays Mountain. Alright, this could potentially be a tricky matchup. Bone Crusher Giant, sure, gives us a little bit of interaction at least. Swizzle Spear. Do you have another land? You do. We'll be taking a lot of damage here, but I think we grab Steam Vents, just stomp this Swift Spear. Going to 10, which is unfortunate, but c'est la vie. Ardent Plea on top. I think we just have to exile Goblin God here. Make them burn us out or whatever they're going to do. Okay. Eidolon, sure. I actually screwed up here. I should have played Flooded Strand, which would have allowed us to fetch basic planes and bounce this and blank the Rift Bolt. Is there anything that I can fetch with Blood Crypt to get a white source? Yeah, well, actually it was Eidolon plus a punt on my part. Because if I would have played Teferi here, then we could have bounced this and blanked the Rift Bolt, which wouldn't have likely killed me. But because I punted here, I mean, there's a good chance we probably lose before we could win the game anyway. But that would at least keep us alive. Yeah, it would give us a chance. I'm not sure that we'd win, but it will at least have given us a chance. I think my decisions now are play Bone Crusher Giant or just bounce this Eidolon during their turn. I just think just bouncing Eidolon's better. I mean, there's a good chance, very, very good chance we're dead. Unless one of their cards is Searing Blaze. Or another land, obviously. Going to 5. If they replay this, we're not in as terrible a shape. Why didn't they replay Eidolon? That just seems suspicious. Guess we go to 4 here. I mean, we're basically dead to almost anything anyway, so... Is my opponent's hand really that bad? I mean, Boros Charm still kills us main phase regardless, so... Their hand's gotta be a bunch of blazes. That's the only... Okay, never mind. They just apparently had a bunch of sorceries. Still, that misplay with the fairy definitely hurt. Commandeer is an interesting one, but I think it's a little too cute. But then again, Supreme Verdicts might be more too cute, so... Especially since our opponent's likely to have Deafening Silence or something like that. I think we just want our control cards. Is it crazy to go down some amount of our Cascade stuff? Go like this. I think we can do better. This hand isn't better. Alright, this'll have to do. Sure. See if they have any creatures. Okay, sure. Seems like they weren't prepared for Leyline of Sanctity. Just gonna hazard a guess on that one. Hand's a little slow, but I do think we keep it. Apparently the opponent also kept a slow hand. Right on time. To be fair, I can cast this at some point, but it's still annoying as crap. Main phasing lightning helix. Sure. Get one of our various white sources here. Which one of the triomes is white? Yeah, I honestly think we're going to end up with an errata, which I know it's crazy, or not an errata, I honestly think they're just going to do a roll fix, so it's not going to be quite as big a deal. We're going to 6, which sucks, but now they can't. They have to kill us with creatures, so. Which is going to be a little bit more difficult for them to do. Okay, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm a trophy leader, crybaby. Like, don't get me wrong, I will salt sometimes in chat on here, but I don't salt to my opponents. It's like, it's not their fault that I drew reasonably well and they flooded out. I mean, that's part of what happens when you play Burn sometimes, unfortunately, is you just flood out and die. Sands a mulligan. We're on the play, right? This hand's a bit of a gamble. We're already on 6, though. Guess we keep. Put back Reason Borrower. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like, Burn's well positioned against this archetype, and it's okay against whatever. Which we're going to get Thoughtseize here and Hate Our Lives. Oh boy. Burning Inquiry. Alright, so Dredge. Interesting. I think my opponent scooped way too soon. Whatever. I don't think Teferi's all that good against Dredge, honestly. Guess we'll shave 1. I don't know, that just really seemed like a premature scoop. I mean, I guess we keep this hand. We have Force plus turn 2 Tibalt again. I mean, we don't have Leyline. We don't have to show them Leyline either, which is even more brutal for them. Mulligan this, though, I do think we have to do this, though. It's possible they have another enabler and it doesn't matter, but apparently that was their one enabler. Hello, Leyline of the Void. Hmm. Guess they know about Leyline now. Welp. So this deck is broken by its stuff. Yeah. I was planning on this being a short stream. I wasn't planning on it being quite this short. So, the one thing I will say about this particular list is I really like how clean and efficient at what this deck is trying to do. It's not trying to cast Omnath. It's not trying to cast, Saheeli Rai, Felidar Guardian nonsense. It just understands that it's a combo deck that's trying to control the board game 1. Game 2, it adapts to whatever it's playing against. If it's against Burn, it's bringing in Leylines. If it's playing against a graveyard deck, it brings in Leyline of the Void. If it's playing against other control decks, it brings in Mystical Dispute. If it's playing against a creature deck, it just brings in Threads of Disloyalty for the Commandeers. So, long story short, I kind of like how clean and efficient at what this deck is trying to do. I appreciate the people like Doomwake and so many others that are just like innovating and they're trying things. Who else? Somebody else that did their thing. Doom Switch played a canister version that was running Omnath and Uros in it, in addition to Cryptic Commands as its other flex spot and Dismembers. Other versions, Tom White did well with this version. He was running... This is what I was talking about. Some people were like running a hybridized version. This one was like running Brazen Borrowers and Bone Crusher Giants, but it had like timely reinforcements and an Omnath in it, as well as some Fire Spouts. And had like a whole mess of cards in the sideboard. The deck that won the challenge was the Jund variant. Or a Jund variant. And then the burn lists that have kind of popped up to help counter this are like running Deafening Silence and Roiling Vortex. So the format is adapting, sort of, but like I still don't think this deck being in the format's healthy. I'm saying that as someone who's enjoyed the deck, the 2 leagues that I've played it, but the power level this deck is trying to do is just absurd. I honestly think the easiest fix is to just change the Cascade rules like they did with the Far and Away, Warrant Warden, Boom Bust, all that nonsense. I think they just need to change the Cascade rule. Would be the easiest fix. You don't have to ban anything. And then we can get back to reevaluating whether Tibalt's Trickery is too broken for the format or Uro needs to be banned, all that shenanigans. But deck's very powerful. It's kind of absurd. And it probably needs to go, honestly. People are already... I've seen people working with a red-green Eldrazi list around this that had like Thought-Knot Seer and Reality Smasher at the top end. I've seen, Doom Wake with the Felidar Guardian version. You have Canister working with the Uro Omnath version. There's the Jund version floating around with like Blood Moons and Bloodbraid Elves and whatnot. That actually won the challenge yesterday or Saturday. I guess it depends on where you are in the world. So, the deck's very powerful. There are counters to it. I've even saw there's some spirits have been making a pop back. Burn apparently has a reasonable matchup against it. And I really think that the way to beat this deck, if you're going to beat it, is to get under it with creatures. I know the one match I played against humans gave me a little bit of trouble. I've played 2 matches against Shadow. They've both been close. But a Resolved Valky against them is just pretty much game over. Unless they have a wide board. I've played against Blue-White Control a couple of times. The one matchup we squeaked out. The other matchup we lost because our opponent had multiple Commandeers, which is another card that I've seen popping up both in these lists and out of some of Blue-White Control. I played against Sultai Uropile, and the matchup didn't even feel particularly close. Especially post-board when you're bringing in Mystical Disputes along with your Force of Negations. I mean, you could Tavern, but at least in Saturday's challenge, Jund did okay. But yeah, that would definitely be an interesting sidestep. I don't know if there's enough slots, though. I mean, obviously you have a 15-card sideboard. If you're starting out with, like, 8 Cascade spells... The problem with a lot of the Jund builds is a lot of the Jund builds are 8 Moon plans. So you'd have to, like, try to tweak your plan where you're not vulnerable to the Blood Moon. I could actually see more of a, like, Rakdos plan more than Jund, just because the strain on the mana would be quite a bit. Or I guess you could just become Jund Moon, which was a deck that's popped up at points. I mean, the problem is this deck really... That's the thing, is people want to bring in the Teferis and the Deafening Silences and whatnot. This version doesn't care. You have Teferi, you have Brazen Borrower, you have Bone Crusher Giant, you can cast Valky. I've actually won games with Valky where I literally just cast Valky, steal a freaking, what was it? Not Uro's sister, Uro's brother, Kroxa, and transformed it into a Kroxa. And use that to protect my Valky, or my Tibalt. And it's just like... The dumb things, or even sometimes I've won games, like I've literally won games with Tempo Monkey. I've literally played Brazen Borrower, Spirit God, beat you down. Protect it with Force of Negations and Mystical Disputes. My blue-white opponent, like, pretty much boarded out most of their creature kills, and they died to Brazen Borrowers and counterspells. It's like... I love people iterating with the deck, but I honestly think the original version, or the original blue version that showed up, might be the best. Haven't played with the other cards. A little bit difficult to rent that particular deck, because this deck's already at the upper end of most rental services, and if you're tacking on Uros and Omnaths, you're probably looking at a $1,300 or $1,400 deck. Or ticket deck, which is beyond most borrowing services. So, but, yeah, it's kind of the end of my rant. I was expecting this to be a little bit of a longer stream, but I want to thank everybody for hanging out tonight. Those of you that are new to the stream, please consider giving us a follow. I'm going to continue working on these decks as long as I can, and mixing in some other stuff. Obviously, I'm primarily a Burn player. I've also been getting into playing Uro lately because, frankly, until very, very recently, Burn's been terrible. But yeah, thank everybody for hanging out tonight. Tavern, as always, it's a pleasure. Once again, that's the man. I believe you're the first person that I saw posting the not traditional Jund with Valky in it, but the actual like Cascade, demonic dread, violent outburst nonsense. I do believe you were the first one I saw on Twitter posting it. I don't know if you're the absolute person. I'm not going to make that claim one way or the other, but that's the man to blame for this shenanigans. And check out his YouTube's channel. And just look up MTG Tavern. He also does stuff for Card Market, so MTG Tavern's the man to blame. Also check out his Twitch page. And beyond that, I hope everybody has a great night, and sorry for such a short stream. I was expecting this to go a little bit longer, but wasn't planning on doing another league, so hope everybody has a great night. This has been John for MTG Nexus.